Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and today we're going to make cowboy cookies. Now I don't always make cookies, but when I do, it's going to be cowboy cookies. In all seriousness, I really don't make cookies that much, but I came up with this recipe several years ago, basing it of course off another recipe I'd come across somewhere, and then did some tweaks to it like I always like to do to make it my own, which you can do too, and I'll explain how you can take what I've done and make it your own. So let's get started on this recipe. And by the way, this has been a family favorite cookie recipe for a long time, ever since I started making them. And again, I'll be sharing with you some different variations that people really like. So starting with the, you want to have two fairly large size bowls. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to be halving this recipe since it's just me and Mr. Rain and I don't have any kids here anymore. And so what I like to do, I did actually, this is one of the few recipes that I came up with that I actually typed, and it's not just in my head, which is good since I haven't made them in years. And so I'll be sharing this recipe down below, so look for it in the description box. If I forget to put it in there, just remind me in a comment and I'll make sure I get it in there, because I do have to retype a little bit of this because it's been years since I've done it and some things will have changed. So what I like to do is I keep my own recipes, I print them out, and I keep them in these plastic sheets. You can get these at Costco for a really good price. So if you have a Costco near you, I recommend finding those if you like to do recipes like this. And if not, I'll go ahead and link to see if I can find some on Amazon to link below if you don't have a Costco or anything like that near you. But anyway, it's just a page protector is all it is. So I like to tape the recipes up here so I can see them and they're not getting in my way on the counter. And anyway, what I'm going to start with is one of the things you're going to need is brown sugar. So remember, I'm halving this recipe. So what I need is 1.5 cups of sugar. Now the original recipe was a cup and a half for the double size, a cup and a half of white sugar, a cup and a half of brown sugar. But what I'm going to do is make 1.5 cups of just brown sugar. And yes, you can make your own brown sugar. So all you need is your measuring cup, some organic cane sugar, or whatever your favorite white type sugar is. The kind I get is blonde. I get mine at this I also get at Costco. I really like their sugar. They have the best price on the organic sugar. So there's a cup and a half of the sugar. Okay, and then in this jar I have some unsulfured organic blackstrap molasses. And what I'm going to need is about a tablespoon or more in here. So we'll put in a good heaping tablespoon. It really just depends on how dark you want your brown sugar. But basically that's all brown sugar is. It's the sugar with the molasses still in it. So what we're doing is putting the molasses back in there, which obviously your blonde sugar, I don't know if you can tell, the color of this is kind of a light tan. That means it already still has some molasses still in it. And this is really great because molasses is full of all kinds of minerals, usually the kinds that we tend to be missing in our diet on a regular basis. So anytime you can get a little bit of molasses into your different things that you're baking, I highly recommend it. Okay, and then just take a fork. This might take several minutes, so I'll probably speed this process up, but anyway, you're just gonna blend that in there. And it, like I said, it can take a while. I used to make up a bunch of it at a time, but the problem with that is it can, even with the little clay thing in there, it can get rock hard. So it's better to make it up as you need it. And this way, here's the other great thing about making your own brown sugar is you can make your own organic brown sugar. It's actually cheaper to make your own organic brown sugar than it is to buy organic brown sugar. I mean, you have to get the organic cane sugar. I'm just going to keep blending this, and when it gets mixed in there real good, then we'll move on to the next step. All right, so I'm not sure why I didn't just start with this in the bigger bowl, but you can see I put it in here and I don't have it fully blended yet, but that's okay because I still have to blend more stuff in here anyway, like the butter and the vanilla and the eggs. So I'm going to move on to that, and it'll finish mixing in there well once we add the other ingredients. So I need to say that all of this stuff is coming from food storage, by the way, including the butter, because, and yes, it got a little too melted. I had it too close to the wood stove. But anyway, the butter, we stock up on it. I have my kids pick up the Kerrygold butter when they go to Costco, and I'll have them get me a whole bunch of them, and then I just put them in the freezer. Some I'll keep in the refrigerator, and then the excess I'll put in the freezer, and so I've always got plenty of butter on hand. Now, if you're doing the half recipe, you're going to need 8 ounces of butter. If you're doing the full-size recipe, you're going to need 2 of these, so a whole pound of butter. I know it's a lot, but it does make a lot of cookies. And besides, butter is good for you. And so, of course, you want the butter a little soft, which is definitely soft. Okay, kind of start mixing that in there a little bit. And you can use an electric beater if you want. It does really help to have that butter very soft. Not necessarily melted, but very soft is helpful. Now, I read before that softened butter simply means you take it and you just pound on it until it's soft, but I prefer to let it be, you know, pretty warm, and that really makes it easier to mix. Okay, so now I still have more mixing to do. So now we're going to do a half tablespoon of vanilla. Obviously, if you're, because this is the half recipe, for a full recipe, a whole tablespoon. So I'm just going to pour it in there because I never measure anything. I can guarantee that's more than a half tablespoon. And then you'll need, for the full recipe, you need 3 eggs. Well, you can either do 1.5 eggs or you can do 2. I'm using my, since my chickens have started laying and I still have a bunch of eggs frozen up from last year, I'm using these eggs that I froze from last year. They thaw out really quick, by the way. And I put 2 in each bag, and I'm just going to put the whole thing in there. I'm not too worried about it being a little bit heavy on the eggs. Okay, and then you just want to blend that really together really good until it's just very well blended and creamy looking. Got it pretty well blended. I still see little pieces of molasses in there that didn't fully blend in there. It's pretty cold right now, so the molasses is a little bit harder to mix in. However, that's not too bad right there, so I'm going to set that aside, and then we're going to move on to our dry ingredients. Okay, so I'm going to get my second bowl, and by the way, in case you're new to my channel, the extract, the vanilla extract, is homemade, and I use a blend of non-GMO food-grade glycerin and rum, spiced rum. Makes a really good, I do a 50-50 blend, makes an excellent vanilla extract. Okay, so now for the dry ingredients. You're going to want, for the full recipe, 4 cups of flour, and obviously a half recipe would mean, well, just 2 cups. And what I have here is my own blend of home milled flour. It's spelt buckwheat, hard white wheat, and soft white wheat, all blended together in there. Oh yes, and now's a good time to turn your oven on to get it preheated to 350 degrees. Okay, and this fork, it's not dirty. This is the one I was initially using for the molasses and the sugar. So I want to have that handy. And so next is going to be, for the full recipe, a tablespoon of baking powder. So I'm doing half a tablespoon, which would be 1.5 teaspoons. Okay, and now the same with your baking soda. A tablespoon, full recipe, a half tablespoon, or 1.5 teaspoons for the half recipe. And then a teaspoon, full recipe, of salt, or half teaspoon for half recipe. Okay, and then mix those in well, those dried ingredients. And now this is where I add a lot of my own special things, and you can mix this up however you want. I recommend flaxseed, but if you're going to put flaxseed in the cookies, you should actually grind it for this. If I'm putting it in a bread where I'm going to soak it for a while, then I just leave them whole, but I don't feel like grinding these up, so what I'm going to do is just skip these this time around. And I'm going to use about 1/8 cup each. 1/8 cup is about 2 tablespoons. So 2 tablespoons of chia seed. Same thing with the poppy seed. And again with the hemp seed. And add whatever seeds you want. I also recommend wheat germ. I've used wheat germ in these quite a bit. And to me, this is just a way to get a little bit more nutrition into the cookies. So blend that in well with your big fork or whatever, your whisk, whatever you want to use, and be a little neater than me and don't throw it all over your counter. I do everything con brio, people. Okay, so next we're going to put in our oats. So full recipe would be 2 cups, half recipe 1 cup. And now whatever nuts, if you like nuts at all, whatever nuts you want to use. I would prefer to put walnuts or pecans, but Mr. Rain is not a walnut or pecan kind of person. However, he does like almonds, so I will use sliced almonds. So if you're adding nuts, oops, this one isn't even open yet. I gotta use this one first. You can see I jarred these sliced ones up. I bought them in bulk and then jarred them up in 2017, so I'm getting these used up. So let's see how much I have in here. You're going to use 2 cups of nuts total if you're doing the full recipe. So now I got to open this jar. Oh, there we go. Love it when it sounds that way. That tells me it did have a great seal. That was the brake bleeder method, everyone. Okay, so 1 full cup of nuts. Again, 2 if you're doing the double size recipe, full size recipe. And I do the same thing with my coconut. And you can see on this one, I'd actually used the Tatler lids. Tatler lids do vacuum seal pretty good as well, so you can do that if you want. I typically save them for canning though. So coconut, unsweetened. I prefer to get the smallest ones that I can get, you know, the small flakes. And the ones I used to get are no longer available on Amazon, like keeps happening. But anyway, full recipe would be 2 cups. Single recipe or half recipe is 1 cup. So basically it's a cup, a cup, a cup. And then same thing with your chips. Now, I don't know if these are on Amazon or not. I initially got them from Tropical Traditions, and I'll link to either place that has it. I don't know if Tropical Traditions still carries these or not. If they don't, I'll find them on Amazon and link them. Either way, I'll put a link to these below. These are kind of hard to find, though I have found them before in the health food store in town that we don't get into very often because, you know, it's over an hour to drive in there, and to us, it's not usually worth the trip. But these are not just organic. They don't have any soy lecithin in them. A lot of your chocolate chips, even the organic ones, will have soy lecithin. And if you're like us and you're trying to avoid soy because it's a lot better for your thyroid and your health in general, I try to find the ones without any soy in them. And so I really, really like these chocolate chips. And look at the date. I bought these in 2014 and then jarred them up because when I saw them in town on sale and then also on Tropical Traditions, I stocked up on a whole bunch, and then when I got them, I jarred them up, and then I keep them in a cool, dark storage area. So I don't have any issues with them melting. Okay, so 1 cup of these, half recipe, whoops, 2 cups for a full recipe. Now, if, I don't even know if there is such a thing, but if you can find butterscotch chips that are organic and not, you know, not the junk ones they sell out there, butterscotch chips are really, really good in this recipe too. But I haven't looked for any in a long, long time, so I don't know if they're available now, but one of these days I would like to find them again if I get back into making cookies on a regular basis. Now I'm looking at this and realizing, even though this is a half recipe, this bowl is still going to be a little small for what I need to do. However, let me double check my ingredients to make sure I put in everything. Yes, I did. Okay, so now I'm going to start putting the dry ingredients into the butter sugar mixture. And really, people, the best way to mix this is to get your hands in the dough. You can use your fork or your spoon to just start blending it. But the best way to blend it is with your hands. Just get your hands in there. Just make sure they're clean, obviously. Now, if you have one of those expensive countertop KitchenAids, you know, I'm sure that you would probably want to use that for this process. I've just had no desire to have one. I just haven't. I mean, I think they're beautiful, and I'm sure that if I had one, I might find it handy. But to me, I've just not needed it. I just haven't seen the reason to spend that kind of money on something. Every so often I look at them and think about it, and then I'm like, no, I don't need it. Now my oven is all heated, And I'm ready for the cookies to go in there, so let's get putting these on my tray. Now I prefer using the stoneware baking sheets for making cookies and crackers and stuff like that, but cast iron, if you have a nice cast iron, like a pizza pan, that would be wonderful too. I have a cast iron pizza pan and I love it. But for my cookies, I still like using these. So I will link to this below if you're interested. They're kind of pricey, but I think they're worth it, the stoneware. And I've had these for many years. So anyway, let's get the cookies on the baking sheet. So I just use, and you don't need to grease it, I just use a tablespoon and just plop it on there. Just a drop and bake. Okay. Take your little pieces, push them in there. Okay, so just like that, that's how I like to put them on the pan. And so we're gonna stick it in the oven for 15 to 17 minutes. So keep a good eye on it. Check it obviously at about 14 or 15 minutes to see how they look, and add more time if you need to. Each person's oven's gonna be a little bit different on the temperature, even if we set it the same. So you want to make sure you check them. That's why most recipes will give you, they don't just say 10 minutes. They usually say 8 to 10 minutes or 15 to 17 minutes like this does. So I'm going to put these in the oven, 350 degrees, remember, and I'll be back when these are done. Okay, well the cookies are all done, and I did end up with a total of 24 cookies. So
hey Heidi?
Yes?
Could you come here and help me for a minute?
Sure. Well, that was weird. I don't know where he's at. Anyway, hey, something doesn't seem right about these. Could have sworn there was more here. Anyway, whatever. So what we have here are, on these cookies, this is the way I tend to like my cookies, where they're a little more spread out and thin. But if you like your cookies to be a little more puffy, like these ones, or even more so than this, add more flour to it so that when you're kneading the dough, it's a lot less sticky, and almost like bread dough by the time you get done with it. And the more flour you have in it, the fluffier your cookies are going to be. But you don't want them too dried out either. That's why I tend to like them like this. Less flour, more butter. Love them that way. So it's all totally up to you on how you want to make them. There's so many variables in this. There's so many different ingredients. You can add raisins or anything. The reason I like these cookies so much is there's just so much good stuff in them. I mean, this is about as healthy as you can get for a cookie, other than the sugar that's in there, which, isn't too horribly bad. But anyway, it's a great cookie, and we just really like them. So I hope you give this recipe a try and make some of your own tweaks however you want. And thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.